Hello there, I'm Lady Loy, and you find me on Gold Standard Radio every Saturday, 7 till 9, where you can hear songs that make you feel as though you've been on a roller coaster ride. But today I wanted to talk about the new legislation that impacts young people, social media, and how have being restricted from social media means that they could be restricted from music. So let's see where this is leading, and I just want to share a few of my thoughts with you. So, first of all, let me say good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending on which part of the world you're watching this video from. And welcome to Food of the Heart, which will be crossing many of my platforms. And it's where we prepare the next meal for your heart. And today's meal is about something that affects all of us, whether we are parents, grandparents, carers, teachers, broadcasters, or simply people who remember what it felt like to be young. Today we're talking about the need to belong and what happens when the things designed to keep us safe begin to make us feel restricted. Now, many of you know here at Gold Standard Radio, music is at the heart of what we do. Music is not just sound. Music carries memories, emotions, identity, culture, and sometimes even rebellion. A song can take you back to a particular moment in your life faster than any photograph can. You can hear the first few notes of a song and suddenly you're 16 again. Standing in your bedroom, singing into a hairbrush on the bed, microphone and in your hand, and like you were about to perform at Wembley. Sorry about that. Yes, like you're about to perform at Wembley. We laugh because many of us did it. We may not admit it, but we did it. Some of us even had the confidence of a superstar while our family members were quietly wondering when the concert in the bedroom was going to finish. But that is a part of growing up. We explore, we imagine, we create our own identity, we find where we belong. So when we talk about new legislation and discussions around protecting children under the age of 16, it is important that we have a balanced conversation, because the desire to protect children is something most people understand. Children are growing up in a world that looks very different from the one many of us knew. When some of us were young, if you wanted to disappear for a while, you went outside, climbed a tree, rode your bike, or sat somewhere pretending not to hear your parents calling you home. Today, children can disappear into a digital world while sitting in the same room as everybody else. And that brings challenges that previous generations never had to face. There are real concerns about what children see, who they interact with, and how online spaces can influence their confidence, their emotions, and their understanding of the world. But alongside safety, there is another human need that we must not forget, and that is the need to belong, because belonging is powerful. A child who feels they belong is more likely to feel valued. A child who needs to be understood is more likely to ask questions. A child who feels listened to is more likely to speak when something is wrong. And this is where music comes into the conversation, because music has always been a place where young people find belonging. Before there were social media platforms, there were record shops, radio stations, concerts, youth clubs, and friends sharing songs with each other. Music gave young people a voice. It gave them somewhere to place their feelings. Sometimes a teenager hears a song and thinks someone understands what I'm feeling, and that connection matters. Now, of course, we cannot pretend that all music is harmless. Music can influence attitudes, language, behaviour, and emotions. That is why guidance, conversation, and parental involvement are important. But we also have to be careful that protection does not become a word that closes down curiosity completely. Because there is a difference between guiding a young person and controlling every step they take. Most people know this struggle. You want to keep your children safe, but you also know there comes a point where they have to learn how to make decisions. It is a bit like teaching someone to ride a bicycle. You hold the back of the seat because you do not want them to fall, but eventually you have to let go because otherwise they'll never learn to balance. And let's be honest, humans have always struggled with letting go. So parents can say you're old enough to make your own choices, but then 5 minutes later they are sending a message asking, where are you? Who are you with? Have you eaten? Did you take a coat? Because even when children grow up, parents still have that little alarm system inside them that never seems to switch off. And that comes from love. But the question we must ask ourselves is, how do we protect without creating fear? How do we guide without removing independence? How do we make sure children are safe while still allowing them to discover who they are? Because every generation has had something adults worry about. There was a time when people worried about certain books, certain television programs, certain films, certain types of music. Every generation looks at the next generation and thinks things were different when I was young. And they were different, but young people still had the same basic needs. They wanted acceptance, they wanted friendship, they wanted to feel seen, they wanted somewhere to belong. Here at Gold Standard Radio, we understand the influence of music because we have seen how songs bring people together across generations and across countries. A rhythm can connect people who have never met. A melody can cross a language barrier. A song can remind someone of their culture, their family, or a time when they felt free. That is why conversations about young people and music must not only focus on what we are protecting them from, we also need to talk about what we are protecting for them. We are protecting their creativity. We are protecting their imagination. We are protecting their ability to express themselves. We are protecting that little spark that makes them unique, because sometimes when people say they want to keep us safe, the fear is that safety might come at the cost of freedom. And that is a conversation worth having, not with anger, but with wisdom, because protecting children should not be about building walls around them. It should be about helping them develop the strength to walk through the world safely. It should be about giving them knowledge, giving them confidence, and giving them people they trust enough to come to when life becomes confusing. And perhaps that is the meal our hearts need today. A reminder that safety and freedom do not have to be enemies. They can sit at the same table. We can protect without frightening. We can guide without silencing. We can listen without judging. And maybe that is where belonging begins. When a young person knows that even in a complicated world, there is somewhere they can bring their questions, their fears, their dreams, and their music. Because every heart, young or old, is looking for somewhere it belongs. And I hope that resonates with you, because sometimes we forget in our desire to control and to keep children safe, that they are individuals. And we have seen how they express themselves when they have no restrictions around them. No one telling them, oh, you can't say that, or that's not appropriate. I've watched videos where people curse, and even though I don't curse, I can still separate that cursing from the message that they're actually saying. And sometimes there is wisdom hidden beneath things that we're frightened of. And so when children express themselves and we think, oh my goodness, you'd be surprised how they're accepted when they are being themselves. When maybe a little curse word does step in, whether they have a tattoo across their face, whether their hair is pink, whether they wear extraordinary glasses, whether they have earrings all over the place, and things that we thought were not acceptable. And you needed to have a certain appearance in order to be accepted. TikTok and YouTube shows you that they can be totally themselves, unrestricted, and still be safe and still know certain boundaries, because they've been raised right and they've been raised with love. And then when we think about this, we have to think about raising children with love, with reassurance, and with validation. So, and let me say this, take care of yourself, take care of each other until the next time. And I hope this food for the heart helped fed your heart this morning or this afternoon or this evening, depending when you're watching it. Bye bye.